Welcome to Programming for Designers. This is Trish Ladd, WIP400 Platt College. Insert statements. So as we've already gone over select, our next step is to go over insert. Here's what an insert statement looks like. Basically, we select what table we want to use, so insert into the table we want to use, what fields we want to insert data into, and then what values to put into them. I'll show a more specific example shortly. If we wanted to insert values into multiple records, we could do that as well. Just basically same thing. The columns that you want to enter data into, and then the values that you want to insert into those rows. So value 1, 2, 3 would be one row, value 4, 5, 6 would be the next row, 7, 8, 9 would be the third row of data. And all of those must correspond to the columns that you wish. So field 1, value 1, 4, and 7 must go into field 1. Value 2, 5, and 8 must go into field 2. Value 3, 6, 9 must go into field 3. And so forth. They must match up, and this is true even for the non-multiple records. So here is an actual example. Here we have insert into users, username, email, join date, and is admin. You can see that username is a string value encased by single quotes. Email, again, same thing, string value. Join date is a date time value, so now is a perfect function to just insert a date time value. That would be now, the time the query is run. And then is admin would be like a 1 or a 0, 1 being that this person is indeed an admin, and that gives him the ability to edit other people's posts, for example. String values must be encapsulated into quotes. Numbers do not need to be. Functions do not need to be either. There are special properties of the database that we can get that will tell us whether or not things have been updated. And that single arrow is called the object operator, and what it does is it gives us properties of an object in PHP. That's what that little symbol does. Our object, scalar DB, are variable for the database. The property that we are looking at is affected rows. And that tells us how many rows of data were affected. If we were to just insert one row of data, that would be run one row. If we were to insert 3 rows of data, we'd get a value of 3 back. Let us say we did an update, which we'll talk about update and delete later in a different video, but same thing. It would tell us how many rows of data were changed. And that's why the database needs to have this information, why this is a database property. So database insert ID gives us the last ID generated for an auto increment column of an insert. So presumably you inserted some data into a table, and if you need to know what ID that item was, then you can turn around and utilize that ID. In summary, insert statements create data. We can create multiple rows of data at one time. We need to ensure that the columns and values match up, and those values are the appropriate data type for the field that we are attempting to insert the data into. Any fields that are not null or auto-incremented need to have a value to be inserted, so that means they need to be called out in that insert statement, field 1, field 2, field 3, whatever they are. Affected rows tells us how many items of the database were changed, and insert ID gives us the last ID of the last item that was created. As always, I hope this lecture has been helpful and informative, and I wish you happy coding.